do not bring up Ronald Reagan. I had just written a paper the year before we went on Republican and conservative politics, sourcing Barry Goldwater. And my dad explained that my grandfather was working for the Urban League at the time, and I was definitely never to bring up the name Barry Goldwater to him.
Okay, so the pamphlet distribution was not a case of your father shoving you out the door with a handful of pamphlets. I mean, you were kind of the proverbial Alex Keaton as a child, weren't you?
Yeah, except for my button down were authentic Brooks Brothers, whereas Alex Keaton's, he was like a fake preppy. So that would be the major distinction.
Dude, you were just too over the top, man.
Yeah, two of the top. All right, John. So while we've got you on, you sent me 3 articles, and they were all in your typical style, funny and interesting. But the one that I loved the most, and that's what I want to talk to you about, your concern about white people gentrifying black led protests. That's a unique perspective. Would you please talk about that a little bit?
Well, we always hear complaints that especially white hipsters in places like New York, and I'm sure it happens in LA, but a lot of urban environments, we always hear concerns that white hipsters are moving into predominantly black or Asian or Hispanic neighborhoods and gentrifying them, which raises the prices. And then they bring in all their little kombucha bars and whatever else, their fixie bike facilities and things like that, and they end up ruining the neighborhood for the original residents. And one thing I noticed with a lot of these Ferguson, Eric Garner style protests, especially a couple of weeks ago when I wrote this, now it's getting more and more violent. We've had cops shot and stuff like that, but early on they started to get violent, but they weren't only being violent in some place like Ferguson. They started getting violent in Seattle, and they show crowds, and it's all white people. And it's all the kind of the normal Guy Fawkes mask wearing anarchists running around, throwing Molotov cocktails, breaking windows of the Gap, things like that. And when they were showing it in Berkeley as well, I didn't see any African Americans. It was all a bunch of white college kids with a couple Asian college kids thrown in there because, their roommate was out protesting and they thought they might meet a cute girl. So I'm just very concerned that white people are gentrifying the black-led protests, and they're attaching all these other things to it. There were people carrying signs against GMO food and people anti-Israel this and crush capitalism over there. So I'm just trying to help the progressive community like usual.
Listen, the Guy Fawkes mask and the things that we had Dan Joseph on the last half hour. He goes on college campuses and interviews college students who basically have no idea what they're for or against. But how many, John, how many of the folks out there wearing the Guy Fawkes mask have any clue who Guy Fawkes was?
Oh, they have no idea. He was, basically he was a pro-Catholic zealot who tried to blow up Parliament. But they saw a cool movie and they like the mask and they wear it. What always amuses me, it's usually these smash capitalism types who wear these masks, but they're all mass produced in a factory. The trademark is owned by Warner Brothers or some other huge multinational. So all they're doing is feeding the system. But, it makes them feel cool, and it gets back at Dad for not paying for the viola lessons.
Yeah. Listen, we're going to get back to another story here, but, we're kind of winding down. I mean, Housem, of course, he lives in Newport Beach, so he winds down on a daily basis. I'm here in the frigid Midwest, and, I kind of had withdrawals because we took a break from the show for a while, so I came out fired up politically. And as we wind down, tomorrow we're going to hit some of our favorite stories of 2014. Can we ask you to share with us, John, what are among yours? I mean, what comes to mind when you kind of look back and think, dude, that was awesome?
Yeah, the huge one, and I think for most people, was just the midterms. What a thrashing it was. Yeah, just a complete thrashing, and I'm skeptical. Being a Republican, we are used to being skeptical, and who knows if they'll actually fulfill any of the promises they made, but just the nature of the thrashing was good. I think also, and this is kind of general, we've seen all these different examples of when we look at the New York protests, it's basically liberals attacking liberals. And we're seeing that again and again. You're seeing feminists mad at the race hustlers. You're seeing race hustlers mad at Asian students who are taking their slots in universities. You're starting to see a pattern of the left turning on the left. And that's because they've gotten everything they wanted for so many years now. There's nothing left. Republicans don't even stand up to them anymore, or just kind of duck and hide. And so now you have all these different grievance groups taking on each other, and it's I think it's my duty to kind of stoke the fire every once in a while, but it is more and more you're just seeing progressives attacking progressives because all their dreams, everything their college professors taught people like Barack Obama, none of it works. We told them that none of it works. They didn't listen to us. They said we were racist and stupid and we don't understand economics, but none of it works. And now they're looking for people to blame. And since no Republicans have been in charge for 6 years, it's getting kind of tough to blame us.
And
You know,
look,
the St. Louis,
listen, I
the
mean,
whole Ferguson thing, almost all the politicians around Ferguson and that county that they're in are liberal. And so why the press is selling it as a race thing, because they can't make it a partisan thing. It isn't Republican versus Democrat. It's Democrat versus Democrat.
That's exactly correct. And let's go back for just a second, and then I want to talk about Democrat versus Democrat. But as it relates to the midterms, you said something to the effect of, let's see if they can deliver, and that would be they being, excuse me, the Republicans. I have made the point since the day after, others have as well, that in the midterms, Republicans did not win, Democrats lost. And there's a substantial difference there. So I think we're probably all on the same page that Republicans have a couple of years here to prove not that we can just we can shoot down Barack Obama and everything that he stands for and has done, but Republicans have an opportunity here over the next couple of years, don't they, to say, here's what's different about us versus just throwing rocks at Barack Obama and the Democrats.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We need to start coming up with positive policies. I think the voters are starting to understand that Obamaism doesn't work. It's not going to work. But yeah, the Republicans definitely haven't made the sale. It's not like they're like, finally, Republicans are in charge. They just wanted a check for Obama because everything he touches turns to garbage. And I had a different word other than garbage, but I edited myself. But something that's kind of interesting to watch too is just the Democrats. They used to have this whole kind of cachet of being the cool party and we're the cool kids and the celebrities love us and stuff like that. And I think even that's starting to change because the outsider can act like they're cool because they're never called to actually do anything. But we've had a president for 6 years who isn't doing anything right. Everything he tries fails, and so he stopped trying in a lot of ways. He just kind of hides out and plays golf and stuff like that. And when people are struggling, they're working 3 jobs or can't find one job. Their paycheck is shrinking year after year. Prices are going up year after year. The cool act just doesn't work anymore.
And I think
Republicans do need to start throwing down some policies, and of course they'll be fighting each other for the presidential campaign, but we need some real world policies, and we don't need to make them terribly complicated. The main thing is just to get the heck out of the people's way so we can get to work.
And of course, that's a basic fundamental tenet of conservatism. But let's go back to your point that the Democrats are going to be fighting the Democrats. Excuse me. We've talked about this a lot on the show. Hillary Clinton can't get out of her own way, And listen, I mean, this goes back, poll after poll, video after video. You ask Hillaryites, what has this woman accomplished? They can't tell you. I mean, hell, she can't even tell us what she's accomplished. But then you have the Lizzie Warren, Pocahontas, I like to call her Liawatha. You have that whole wing, the left wing of the Democrat Party, who views Hillary as too conservative. There is a large part of the Democrat Party who wishes that Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, would just ride the hell out of town into the sunset and never be heard for again. So there is going to be, which often happens in the Republican Party, and we're going to see that again this cycle as well, But there is a philosophical difference, a philosophical war within the Democrat Party that is going to be fascinating over the next couple of years, is there not?
Yeah, definitely, because you have some Democrats who are thinking, hey, we got to kind of tack our sails, go a little bit more pragmatic because obviously this full on progressivism isn't working. And then you have other people who are looking at the whole progressive experiment and saying, the only problem Obama has made is that he hasn't been progressive enough. His faith wasn't pure enough. That's very typical socialist thinking. We obviously haven't believed strong enough, and we need to go further with someone like Liz Warren. So, yeah, they're going to have a huge civil war. People talk about rhinos versus true conservatives among Republicans, but the left is going to be really interesting to watch. I attended the Netroots Nation event, the big progressive blogger event, which was in Detroit this year, the summer, returning to the scene of the crime, as I was calling it. But nobody was talking Hillary. Everybody was Liz Warren. It was just all the energy in that party is for Liz Warren because she says all the right words. She hates all the right people, which is what Democrats usually look for.
That's perfect.
And
I love that. She
and
hates
that's
all the
who
right
they
people.
are. People were over the moon when she spoke, and that's all you heard in the hallways where Liz Warren is going to save us, just like they said, just like they promised Obama would several years ago. So there's going to be a huge battle on that side.
Hey, Michael, I want you, I mean, you got to break in here, but we have to capture what John just said because that was profound. And that is, that's pretty much a basic tenet of liberalism. Liz Warren hates all the right people. That was priceless. I loved that.
Yeah, and they always complain about haters and things like that. But when you go, I'm sure you guys have, heard progressive speeches and stuff, and that's what it is. That's how De Blasio got elected. He hated the cops. He hated, Bloomberg, the business class. He hated Wall Street, and that's what motivates them. It's all about payback and, getting back those who have done them wrong in their minds.
Yeah, and that it's as we stand astride aside and watch them do that. At some point, the coalesce around hating the right things. I don't know. It to me that does not seem to be a long-term winning strategy. But so far, at least for national office, the last two times it worked.
Yeah, it has worked. I think hopefully this isn't wishful thinking on my part. Um, I think people are just getting frustrated with the whole. There's an old saying in local politics that says garbage pickup isn't partisan. People just need basic services done. And I don't care if you're left, right, in the middle. If you aren't getting those basic services done, voters are just going to tune you out. And I think that's what started to happen in the midterms. I don't think it's a pro-Republican thing, as we've talked before, but people just need to make sure the basics get done. We need to make sure our military is funded, and can do what they need to do. We need to make sure that government is, not getting us $1 trillion more in debt every single year. There are certain basic things that people are just sick of the government messing up. And while they're messing up the basic things, they're creating all these new programs that don't work, like Obamacare and EPA regs and all these stupid advantages they give certain businesses, whether it's Solyndra or electronic health records companies, that just they do not work. So I think there's just going to be a basic pragmatic reaction by people.
Well, that's a point that Mark Stein is fond of bringing up, that the Leviathan is so big and fingers in so many pies. In addition to the fingers being in the pies, they're dictating the ingredients that are used in the pies, and they're dictating the types of ovens that are used to cook those pies. That the stuff that the government should be doing, keeping the bad people out, keeping the bad people from killing us, enforcing rule of law, the typical stuff of the old-fashioned government is all but being ignored, while all these new things are being, thrown into the fire, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar to higher education. People are leaving the hard sciences so they can get a degree in, gender studies or whatever the trendy thing is now. It's like this whole country is denigrating those people who just get work done. The people who build freeways, the construction guys, the people fracking up in North Dakota.